Hey, it's Pat here. If you are looking for some work from home tips so you can stay productive and not drive yourself crazy, well, you're in the right place. If you've recently started working from home, or maybe you're a stay-at-home mom or dad and you're just trying to get some stuff done, well, working from home can be extremely difficult. There are loads of potential distractions. Salsa. Especially if you have young kids like I do. What?
I love you.
Aw. And if you're used to staying accountable because your boss is in the same building as you, well, that's gone now too. Unless, of course, we're talking about the other boss.
Can you take this out for me?
Sure. I've worked from home myself for over a decade since getting laid off from my architecture job in 2008. While at home, I've started several businesses and I've learned a thing or two about what it takes to remain productive, both on the business side of things and the family side of things too. And let me just say this before we get started here. If you have kids, especially kids under the age of maybe 3 or 4, well then this is gonna be even more difficult for you because those kids, they're like a second job, except like 24/7 with no pay, and they can drive you crazy. But so can working from home. So let's not delay anymore. Let me help you cut the crazy by talking about the top 10 tips that I have for you to stay sane while working at the house or remotely, starting with tip number 10. Make sure you stick around till number 1 because that's the most important one of all. Number 10, get into a morning routine, ASAP. The beauty of leaving the house and going to work every single day is that you get to leave the house and go to work every single day. It's rhythmic, it's automatic, it's just what you do. Unfortunately, when you start working from home, that routine goes away. And that's a dangerous thing because you can have slower starts and longer finishes. I remember when I was laid off, I tried to look for the silver lining. Like, yay, freedom, I am my own boss, I could do anything at any time. Well, freedom without routine can mean procrastination, laziness, and being unproductive, or feeling like you're busy, but being busy on the wrong things. So even though you don't have to clock in each day and you get to make your own choices, I would still choose to have a morning routine that'll set yourself up for a very productive day. That means setting an alarm and getting up at the same time each day. That means take that shower, start that morning pot. I'm talking about coffee. Do whatever you need to do to get your day started the right way. Oh, and make sure you change into regular clothes, not your pajamas. Or at least change out of the pajamas that you're in. Trust me, that ritual of changing out of what you were sleeping in and putting something on, I wouldn't necessarily go with a suit and tie unless you're a weirdo. But mentally, that transformation transforms your brain to get you ready for the day. Define your morning routine. And you could even have a checklist that you could fill out each day. And you're gonna get started on the right foot. Number 9, find your spot. After I started working from home, I remember fumbling around the apartment for like an entire week, just trying to find a spot where I could get some productive work done. Sometimes it was the couch, other times it was the dining table, but it wasn't until I took over this nook in the corner of our 1-bedroom apartment that things finally started to roll. This was my spot, and I recommend you find somewhere, whether it's in your home or another location, that becomes your regular spot so that when you go in, you can check in and get things done. And on the flip side, when you get up and get out of there or you leave that space, you can mentally check out too. That's the beauty, again, of a 9-to-5 job. At 5 p.m., you're done. And you can mentally check out, which is really hard to do when you're at home, which takes us to our next tip. Number 8, beware the temptation to work when you shouldn't. I was 6 months into working from home, and I wanna share with you a conversation that me and April, my wife, had. And this was just a few months after we got married and moved into our apartment together. So April was talking and her mouth was moving, but unfortunately I wasn't even listening to her because me as an entrepreneur working from home was so focused on what my next email was gonna be or what my next product was gonna be. And one time, she called me out on it. She was talking and here's what she said. Wait, hold up. Are you thinking about your business right now? And I said, no. And then here's what she said. She goes, well, okay, what did I just say? You said you're thinking about your business, aren't you? Yeah, that didn't go over so well. So that's, the couch was nice that night. Anyway, I was very, very thankful she called me out on that because I was not there presently with her when we were having a conversation. And we didn't have kids yet at this time, but I'm so thankful she called me out because I definitely don't want to behave like that when my kids are talking to me. Working, both physically and mentally, when you shouldn't, can be a disaster for relationships that you might have and also your overall energy levels too. Some of the tips that are coming later are going to help you set those boundaries, so keep watching. Of course, just as important as being aware of when you're not supposed to be working, you need to know what you should be working on when you are working. Number 7, know what you're supposed to be doing. Time is precious, so let's not waste it. When you are set to work, let's make sure we're working on the things that actually matter. So think about it. If you are working remotely, for example, and your work does not require you to sort of check in and check out and keep track of those hours, they just want to make sure you get your stuff done. Imagine you take an 8-hour day normally and you shrink it down to 6, but you get the same things done. You're more efficient, you get things done, and now you've bought yourself some time too. That's incredible. If you're your own boss, though, this is where it gets a little tricky because typically if you're your own boss, and I know this from experience, there's a seemingly infinite amount of things that you could potentially do. So there's really no like, okay, well, I'll end early. You just end up doing more things sooner. Especially if you're just starting out or bootstrapping. I mean, you're wearing all the hats. You're doing emails and vision planning, finances to, interactions in the community. There's just so much to do. So the trick is understanding, well, what of those things is going to help you the most? Here's the problem though. Usually after we take care of the most urgent things, we then end up doing what is the easiest or the most comfortable. But those aren't the things that are gonna actually move the needle for us. They move us forward maybe incrementally, but they definitely make us feel busy. But honestly, you know this, the things that move you more are the things that are a little bit more uncomfortable. They're the things that you probably don't know how to do exactly. So what I would do is have a running list of all the things that you need to do. If you don't have that already, well then how do you know what to do? And then go down that line one by one to see which ones are the most important in terms of moving you forward in your business, not just keeping you busy. Then when you do have that time, well, make sure you're working on the ones that are moving the needle first. Number 6, choose to eat well. Now that you're not in the office anymore, I'm sorry to tell you there's not gonna be any more morning donuts or meeting donuts or cake for Karen who's having a birthday party. No more vending machines or junk food or sodas that you could just grab. It was easy to choose the unhealthy foods because that's all that kind of was there. And you'd even go out to lunch with your coworkers and you'd say that excuse that you say to yourself all the time. Well, I'm here, so I might as well grab the triple-decker burger. Or I'm here, so I might as well grab the pizza with the extra toppings. That's how it was like every day when I worked a 9-to-5 job. And I remember it was just so easy because it was there. But now you are at home or working remotely and you get to choose. You have the freedom and the option to choose healthier this time. Your body and your mind will appreciate it. Your work will show it. So make those wide choices. Oh, and drink lots of water too. Number 5, take breaks. This is pretty obvious to you, but even though it's obvious, trust me, I know that you're going to not do this sometimes or at all when you should. Breaks. You need breaks. Mental breaks, physical breaks. Get outside, remove yourself from the work environment, and then come back even stronger. Even though you may be cranking on a deadline, I know it's hard to just walk away from that. But like cramming for a test, you're gonna be much better off by taking a little bit of a break, re-energizing, and I promise you, you'll come back even stronger. Maybe it's just a 10 to 15 minute walk or a water break with a little bit of social media time. Maybe in the midday, maybe it's even a nap. And no, just walking outside to take a conference call doesn't count. That helps. I wouldn't take a conference call at the same spot. I love to walk around when I'm taking a call so I can get outside and whatever. But you need a break, like a mental break from the work that you're doing every once in a while. For me, I often take a video game break, like literally. Play maybe a couple sessions of Rocket League or maybe even a couple Super Smash Brothers. Helps me escape work, helps me escape the crazy, and allows me to just enjoy myself a little bit and even use that as a reward sometimes too. So yeah, take that break. Kit Kat style. Hashtag not sponsored. Number 4, schedule all parts of your day, but remain flexible. Your calendar is sort of your best friend in this situation when you're working from home or working remotely. As my good friend Chris Ducker says, if it doesn't get scheduled, it doesn't get done. You probably have your meetings in your calendar already, but there's some other important things that you should be placing in there too, like your morning routine, like we talked about earlier. And no, you don't have to schedule when you're gonna pour coffee or when you're gonna wipe your armpit with soap. Like, you don't need to get to that detail. But put in a block of time of when your morning routine starts so that mentally you see it on the calendar. It's like, okay, I'm in my morning routine now. Next, you wanna schedule your work hours. And I'm air quoting it because if you have kids, or even if you don't, you want to remain flexible, but it's sort of like a guideline. These are my hours to try and focus on work, get things done. Remember those big ticket items. But remaining flexible is really the key there. And mentally, that's going to be quite tough, especially if you're used to remaining within those hours and only doing those things while at work. Now we're in a different environment. You have the kids, you have other distractions, you have your spouse or partner at home. We'll talk more about that later. But understanding that, yes, you will be interrupted every once in a while. And yes, you do have the freedom to be flexible, what's going to allow for a lot more productivity work when you are in the flow, but also not derailing you when you get out of it. Next, schedule your breaks. Yes, your breaks, again, if you don't put them in there, they're not going to happen. Next, you want to schedule when your checkout time is, like your 5 p.m. at your 9 to 5, but your version of that. Maybe it is one long block of time that you have, and having a specific end time is really key for creating those boundaries. But maybe you split up your work hours throughout various chunks during the day. Even then, the end of each of those chunks, you can help yourself by mentally checking out, seeing it on the calendar, and even notifying yourself when that time comes around. Plus, knowing that when you're starting something, there is an endpoint to it, well, you can't help but want to be efficient to maximize that time for yourself. And finally, schedule time with your loved ones. This may sound kind of weird, but this is something that maybe is not for everybody, but I definitely needed it myself. Because, like I said, if it doesn't get scheduled, sometimes it doesn't get done. And the time with my kids and my family, my wife, so important. So important that I've made sure to put it in my schedule, in my calendar, so that I can mentally check out of work and check in with them. Because I want to be fully, mentally, and physically 100% available to them during that time of day. This also helps to ensure that they know that, okay, even though I might be busy, especially with the younger ones, and I always try to be open and honest with them about what I'm doing and when I'm doing it, so that they understand too. Kids understand, you just have to communicate with them. But if they know that I'm working hard, but they know they're going to get me 100% later on in the day, well, they're less likely to interrupt. But when that time comes around, I better be fully present, or else it's a waste. Kids grow up fast, they grow up fast, and I don't want to miss out on any of that time. And I know you don't want to either. The calendar, man, it's a wonderful tool. Number 3, control how you intake the news. The media, especially in times of crisis, can definitely throw us off and just mess with our heads, for sure. Typically, I'd recommend just not checking the news because it's just sometimes very toxic. However, I understand that sometimes in crises, we need to have a pulse on what's going on. So here's a solution for that. When you have a block of time that you know you need to hunker down in, definitely let somebody else know, to let you know if something drastic is happening that you really need to know about. Give them permission essentially to interrupt you. They're sort of like your call line where such that no news is good news. And this is really reassuring because you can just understand that if you haven't heard anything, well, you can just stay focused rather than just wondering if everything's okay. And if you really do need the news, well, make sure to check it just on breaks only, or I would wait till the end of the workday, just so you don't start your day with some stuff that might mess with you. And also in between, you don't want to get thrown off. Have that other person help you, and then wait till the end of the day to catch up. Number 2, connect with people face to face. Working from home or remotely can be extremely lonely. I remember when I got laid off from my 9 to 5 job, this was the number one thing that bothered me the most, not having the connection to anybody around me. There was nobody to talk about the big game with at the cubicle next to me. There was nobody to just randomly chat about what we were going to do over the weekend. No chili cook-offs or company softball games. I'm not going to lie, I felt very lonely. And we, being human, we thrive. We want connection. That's a survival mechanism. We want to connect with other people. So how might we do this when we're working remotely or working from home? Well, we have the internet, obviously, and you connect via email, yes, and I know you connect via Twitter, social media, and even text message others, but it's still just not the same. That's why I recommend, no matter who it is, see what you can do to connect with either voice or face-to-face, like using FaceTime or Zoom or Skype or anything that allows you to see the other person. Just seeing the other person or at least hearing their voice goes a long way in making us feel like, wow, there's somebody else out there in the world and we could still feel a little bit connected. I feel the realness there versus just a text that somebody could be writing when, I don't know, they're doing something else. If possible, try to find a group of people that you can connect with on a regular basis, face to face, again, preferably. And again, it's ideal if it's in person, but if it can't happen in person, then online with video and voice is the next best thing. And FYI, just make sure you subscribe to this channel because oftentimes I go live, and during the crisis here in March of 2020, I am going to be going live every single day just to provide space here on YouTube for people to connect, to just not feel alone, even if you don't interact, just to know that somebody's there on the other end, listening and providing hopefully some entertainment for you. Just hit subscribe, hit that bell notification icon so you can see when I go live, because I want to be there to help you if you need it. I don't want you to feel isolated, especially in times like this. And tip number 1, communicate as much as possible with the people around you. The most important thing you can do, especially if you have other people in the home with you or other people that you're working with, is to communicate as much as you can. Communicate your schedule, give people access to your work calendar, and make sure you communicate with especially loved ones and partners so that you both can come to an understanding, because if you just create the schedule yourself and don't share it with others, then that's not fair to the other person too. And it can benefit you to have the other person know when you should be in the work mode, but also it can benefit them to know that, okay, at this time you promise that you're gonna be checking out, so you could check in mentally with them too. If this is new for you, you're gonna have a meeting to tell each other what the expectations are. And I'm talking about your spouse or partner or roommates or anybody. And if you have kids especially, let them know too. Because like I said earlier, they do pay attention and they listen and they care and they'll understand. The worst thing you can do is not communicate anything at all. In fact, it's better to over-communicate than to under-communicate. This was a big struggle for me because I often tend to just kind of have my own little world, and it's hard to sort of remind myself that other people need to know what I'm doing and when. But at the same time, you can communicate and ask other people around you, the kids, your wife or your husband or your spouse or partner or roommates, hey, what are you doing that you might need help with and support with? I got you if you got me. In this way, communication can lead to collaborative efforts and a better workforce, a better household, and better relationships with the loved ones around you. And the last thing is I want you to communicate with me. In the comments section below, which one of these tips is the most helpful to you? And if you're a member of Team Flynn, if you're subscribed here, I would love to hear from you too. In the comment section below, let me and the other members here know of anything that's helped you when you've learned how to work from home. Or if you have some struggles, share the struggles. I'm sure somebody, including myself, may reply and help you out too. Because that's what this is all about. Community, communication, and hopefully comfort, especially in times of crisis too. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this, any moment of it, hit that thumbs up button. I appreciate you for that. And again, remember, I'll be going live daily to provide space for you to communicate, to let off steam, to just hunker down and get work done alongside others who are doing the same thing. And I promise I'm gonna be there for you as much as I can here on YouTube. Thank you so much for being a part of Team Flynn. We're gonna get through this together, and I appreciate you. Cheers, take care, and Team Flynn for the win.